Lisa, how old are you? With a stack of $10,000 worth of free chips, Eric followed the tempting secretary to the casino. Lisa frowned slightly. Mr. Cooper, it's not a good habit to ask a woman's age casually. With a stack of $10,000 worth of free chips, Eric followed the tempting secretary to the casino. Then she smiled again. But for the sake of your young and handsome face, I am still willing to tell you that 28 years old, single, mother of 2 children. Lisa frowned slightly. Mr. Cooper, it's not a good habit to ask a woman's age casually. Wow, Aoling's figure shows no signs of a child at all, and she is almost the same as a 20-year-old girl. Eric said, a little surprised, this is really not a lie. The chick in front of him is indeed very tempting and full of flavor. Then she smiled again. But for the sake of your young and handsome face, I am still willing to tell you that I am 28 years old, single, and a mother of 2 children. Lisa curled the corners of her mouth. I know, otherwise how would I be a secretary next to Mr. Kerkorian? Wow, Aoling's figure shows no signs of a child at all, and she is almost the same as a 20-year-old girl. What do you want to play? Poker, dice, roulette, or slots? Eric had in mind the Las Vegas scene from Friends, which was the 5th season episode, filmed in Las Vegas, but he didn't know which casino. Eric said, a little surprised, this is really not a lie. The chick in front of him is indeed very tempting and full of flavor. Dice, and see if I can hit as well as Monica. Lisa curled the corners of her mouth. I know, otherwise how would I be a secretary next to Mr. Kerkorian? You're in Friends. Of course, I'm a huge. What do you want to play? Poker, dice, roulette, or slots? Then you should try it even more, because that's where that episode was filmed. Eric's mind conjured up the Las Vegas scene from Friends, which was a season 5 episode that was filmed in Las Vegas, but it was not known which casino. Really? Said Eric, a little surprised. Lisa nodded. Yes, I say that to every guest. Ha 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 ha, dice, and see if I can hit as well as Monica. I want 2 ones. At the Are You in Friends? Table, Eric tossed at random. The dice grunted around a few times, and the last impact turned over and revealed 1 point. Of course, I'm a huge. Lisa tilted her head slightly and hummed a sensible note in a nasal voice. Good luck. Then that's followed by 2 twos. Then you should try it better, because that's where that episode was filmed. Eric threw the dice again at random, and after a few spins, he flipped 2 points at the same time. Really? Said Eric, a little surprised. The dealer shoved a stack of chips in front of Eric. Sir, do you want to continue? Of course, continue with 2 threes. Without Lisa nodded, yes, I say that to every guest. Looking at it, he gently threw the dice, and in the eyes of everyone, the dice finally stopped at 2 or 3 points.
Ha ha ha, cheers rang out around OH.
And Eric himself was surprised. I want 2 ones. Could it be that I am the god of gamblers in the world? Xiongjiang seems to have filmed a god of gamblers versus Las Vegas. At the table, Eric tossed at random. The dice grunted around a few times, and the last hit turned over and revealed 1 point. Lisa looked at him in surprise. You lucky dog. Eric shrugged. Then go ahead, 2 more 4s. Elisa tilted her head slightly and hummed a sensible note in a nasal voice. Good luck. Group of people around followed and screamed, and in the enthusiastic eyes of everyone, the dice actually threw 2 4s. Then that's followed by 2 twos. At this time, the dealer couldn't help but look at him suspiciously, as if to say whether your kid is out of the woods. However, Lisa is the secretary of the big boss, and the people she brought, of course, can't be out of thousands, so they can only be attributed to luck. Soon, the cheers drew a lot of people around, and Eric and Lisa gathered around in the center. Sir, do you want to continue? Eric looked at Lisa, and Lisa nodded without hesitation. Of course, we are now in a rainbow. Eric couldn't help pinching Lisa's small chin. Then listen to your girl. What do we want? Of course it's 2 5s, and I think that's what everybody wants to see. 5, 5, 5. The crowd all raised their arms and shouted loudly. In the midst of their shouts, Eric threw the dice, which rolled a few times before stopping at 2 5s. Seeing the results, Eric didn't feel anything after all. He had earned $1.1 billion, but the surrounding audience screamed excitedly. The dealer continued to hand over the dice, and Eric put them in his hand to play. Do you want to do it again? Lisa blinked. One last time. How about 2 6s? As you wish, my lady. If you guess it, these chips will be given to you as a small gift. Hearing this, Lisa suddenly became excited. If she won the next hand, the 10,000 chips would quadruple to a full $40,000. Don't think that as Kalkorian's secretary, she will make money every day. This is a delusion. Because of the small secretaries like Lisa, there were 6 of them, each of whom was responsible for a simple job. The real secretary is someone else, and a role like a lover can't be her turn. A big guy like Kalkorian won't arrange his lover to the company. Only the stupidest person would make such a decision. So $40,000 is already equivalent to half a year's income. The dice kept spinning in everyone's eyes, and after several collisions in a row, it finally became 12 o'clock. In an instant, Lisa threw herself into Eric's arms, her hands around his neck. A murmur rang in Eric's ears. Come with me, I feel like my body is going to burn. Your house. No, I can't wait that long. Telling the dealer to exchange the chips, the two walked into the bathroom one after the other, indulging unbridledly, which is the eternal theme of Las Vegas. In the surprised and envious eyes of the people around him, Eric walked out of the bathroom refreshed. He was not interested in continuing to gamble, and accompanied by Lisa, he went to the theater to see the opera, where Don Juan was being staged. As a result, the opera is almost over, and there is still no news from Dad. It's not like we didn't talk about it. The more he thought about it, the more upset he became, and Eric suddenly grabbed Lisa's hand and ran to the bathroom again. I'm very angry. In the opera house, the two people who were sweating like rain suddenly became excited. My phone is the boss. He wants to invite you to dinner. It seems that the conversation between your father and him has come to fruition. Hopefully. On the plane, Charlie Cooper was full of smiles. I said that Kerkorian has no interest in movies at all, and the only thing he cares about is the MGM business. Plus, we've known each other for more than a decade, so the process went smoothly and he only made one condition. On what terms? If we were to sell MGM, he would have the right of first refusal, and I agreed. Eric nodded secretly. It seems that Kerkorian is not optimistic that his father can run MGM well, but think about it. My father has been an executive for so many years, and MGM is still half dead. In Kerkorian's view, his father and son probably fooled which one of the wrongdoers and got the financing, but it doesn't matter. It won't be long before MGM will return to his hands and continue to be a money laundering tool. But I also put forward a condition. $2.8 billion will be paid in 2 installments. $2 billion will be paid first, and the remaining $800 million will be paid off within 2 years, which is the startup capital. Eric laughed. It's a bit of a financial fraud, but I'll keep the bank and Kerkorian out of this opportunity. This review is too strict, and it can't be used to drive a little car, so I have no choice but to delete it. AK Film and Television. In the United States, the acquisition of a public company is very cumbersome, with complicated procedures and lengthy processes, often taking more than half a year or more. But MGM has its peculiarities. It is true that it is a listed company, but 92% of the shares are directly or indirectly concentrated in the hands of Kerkorian, and only 8% of the shares actually circulated in the market. Of the 8% shares, MGM's senior management accounts for 5%. For example, Charlie Cooper holds 1% of the shares, but only 3% is actually in the hands of retail investors. And it happened to experience the fiasco of Wind Whisperer. 3% of those retail investors in the market have been sold off, and all of them were silently eaten by Dad for the first time. So, theoretically speaking, Charlie Cooper can now be regarded as the second largest shareholder of MGM. As for the stocks in the hands of the rest of MGM's middle and senior executives, Charlie Cooper definitely can't buy them. He has conflicts with that group of people, but he can't. Kerkorian can. So, in the next short time, Kerkorian increased his stake to 96%, and the actual control of the two has reached 100%. Then there is the delisting, which is the real purpose of gathering equity, so that MGM can be delisted and privatized. In the end, it was sold directly to Cooper and his sons, which could save a lot of time for the acquisition and settle the battle within a month at the earliest. Although listed companies can raise funds for development, they are relative to ordinary companies, and they are not needed at all for Eric, who has the advantage of foresight, and going public will only drag him down. And MGM is so miserable now. It is already very unfavored by the market. Even if it goes public, it will not be able to raise a few dollars, and it will cause trouble, which is really unnecessary. As for the government department, it is not a problem. The money can be connected, and the process is unexpectedly smooth. With the arrival of $2 billion, the news that MGM is going to be acquired is also circulating in the market. At this time, the company was still gloomy because of the box office failure of Wind Whisperer, and suddenly heard the news. Some middle and high-level leaders began to investigate the information of the acquirer, but there was no reaction from the grassroots. Love whoever you love, anyway. It doesn't have much to do with them. No matter who takes over, you still have to use them, and if you dare to dismiss them, you will make trouble, and the union is not a dry meal. And more than a few high-level executives are actually Sony and Warner. The two of them had long wanted to take over MGM, and they had many private talks with Kerkorian, but the results were not satisfactory. The reason is also very simple: the money is not enough. Sony and Warner are only willing to pay $400 million to $500 million in exchange for some of MGM's shares, so as to get MGM's management rights. These two companies believe that with their own strength, they will be able to bring MGM back to life, and then slowly dilute Kerkorian's stake to eat MGM at a relatively small price, but it will take a long time. But Kerkorian doesn't eat this at all. He just needs cash. Plenty of cash, and everything else is. The plans for IP, studio, director, special effects, and the like that Sony and Warner talked about, Kerkorian was not interested at all. Acquisitions that do not take cash as a way are all hooligans and prostitutes in the eyes of this casino tycoon. So when Sony and Warner heard that the acquisition amount was as high as $2.8 billion or cash, they also extinguished the idea of intervening halfway. $2.8 billion. Even if it is shared equally between the two, each will have to pay $1.4 billion, not to mention that they cannot be shared equally. The main thing is cash. No matter how much you have fixed assets and no matter how big your IP is, it's useless. That's not cash. No one was making a fuss. The delisting was completed in just a month, and the subsequent takeover process went smoothly, and the major Hollywood companies and even some Wall Street forces set their sights on the Coopers. No one thought they could suddenly get $2.8 billion, and in the eyes of the market, the two fathers and sons should have acted as the white gloves of some gold owner's father. Either way, Eric suddenly became Hollywood's hottest sweetheart, and Charlie Cooper's status was even higher. Previously, he was only the CEO of MGM, and Kerkorian was an insignificant wage earner. Now, he is still the CEO of MGM, but his identity has changed to that of a movie giant with a billionaire fortune. In mid-August, after a busy month and a half, and more than $8 million to get through the relationship, the acquisition was finally settled, and the speed was a miracle. In Charlie Cooper's opinion, There is really no need to be in such a hurry. It is $8 million, enough to make a B-grade movie. But Eric insisted on hurrying because the post-production of Red Dragon and The Barbershop was completed and would be released soon. These are two big-money movies, and if you don't keep them, you will have some ideas, such as the Lions opening to temporarily increase the price, and similar things are not uncommon. And Eric is not at ease with other major film companies. In short, it will change later, and he will still be in the bag. In the evening, the Cooper family is throwing a party, and there are not many people invited, except for Eric's 4 sworn friends and a few friends of his father. The reason why these people were invited was naturally to make a big change of blood for the top management of MGM. The structure of a film and television company is very complex, including marketing, production, creative, administration, finance, script, and other departments, each of which has multiple branches. For example, the publicity department is responsible for art, poster production, advertising, and other work, and there are more than 2,000 employees below. Including the number of people in other departments, MGM employs more than 3,000 people and spends millions of dollars a month on payroll. But don't think that 3,000 people are a lot. Compared to Warner Disney, MGM is just a small thing, because Warner has more than 80,000 employees around the world, which is very scary. Among the 7 major Hollywood film and television companies, MGM has the smallest number of employees, which reflects the most depression. However, even if there are more than 3,000 people, there are many mountains inside. Although Xiao Leon Cooper is the CEO, he can't control the overall situation, and there are many people in the company who are against him. So, at the beginning of the acquisition, Dad contacted the executives of several small companies and invited them to MGM to replace the disobedient guys. As for Judy, Warren, Bordeaux, and Billy, it's too early to put them in power, so let's learn and learn first, and then talk about it when they have the ability to take charge on their own. Gathered around the barbecue grill, Eric took a sip of beer. I've been busy lately, and now that things have finally come to an end, are you ready to enter the industry? Hearing this, the 4 of them immediately began to talk. It's all come this far. Is there a better choice? That's right, I paid $3 million anyway, although it's just a fly's leg, but it's a shareholder. In the film and television industry, I seem to see countless beauties, the calling of the woman. Seriously, Eric, what position are you going to give us? Eric flipped through the barbecue grill. Let's go to each department to learn first. It will take 2 months. I want you to familiarize yourself with the work of this department within 2 months. I need to know what you are best at, and of course, I have to do other jobs as I arranged. What job? A lot, such as discovering and sourcing copyrights, including promising comics, novels, games, and so on. Like Spider-Man, it's the North American box office #1 so far. Warren said. And Resident Evil is also good, although I haven't played the game, but the movie is good, and the infected Mila Jovovich is too spicy. And the box office is also very high. Eric nodded. That's right. Zombies are a very marketable theme, and I also plan to shoot a TV series. I need you to go to the market to do a survey to ensure that there will be no problems with the copyright, and then work with the marketing department to do this after joining the company. In addition, Transformers also has a lot of potential for adaptation, but the copyright is in the hands of Hasbro. This is a piece of fat, and we need to take it. There's a writer named George Martin, and he has a very good work called A Song of Ice and Fire, and he's worked in Hollywood, and I'm going to get the rights to him no matter what. And one more important thing, which of you likes to watch bad movies? The 4 of them looked at each other, not understanding what they meant. It's the kind of movie with simple special effects, low cost, bloody plot, and very low rating, which will not be released in movie theaters. Warren swallowed a slice of roast meat and said indistinctly, "Discs? As long as there is a stimulating cover, there are so many such movies in the disc market. My dad likes them. He buys a lot of them, and I have seen a lot of them." Eric's eyes lit up. That's right. The TV and disc market is indeed the main territory of bad movies. Warren, are you interested in helping me take care of a bad movie company? What? Warren choked and looked out of breath. Judy slapped his back with 5 thunderbolts and then spit out the barbecue. I understand the company, but what does a bad movie company do? It's a film and television company that specializes in making bad movies, of course. This bad movie is not a derogatory term. What I want is a small investment and a big return, and what I play is to be small and big, just like many B-grade movies, understand? Warren frowned. You mean the Witch Blair kind? It's almost, but Blair the Witch's publicity is too expensive. We don't play that mode. I just want that kind of simple blood, copycat, vulgar movie, understand? Warren hesitated. I've seen a lot of this kind of movie, but can it really make money? The other three were also speechless. Eric, making a bad movie is equivalent to smashing your own signboard. Yes, of course big companies don't do this kind of thing. So, didn't I let you register a company some time ago? You mean AK Films? Yes, after joining MGM, I will select a group of professionals to enter AK Film and Television, which is my white glove, which is used to make bad movies. Four of them suddenly realized that there was no follow-up after Eric asked them to register the company, and it turned out that he had already made up his mind. And of course, it is not a whim for Eric to do this, because Hollywood does have a company that specializes in making copycat bad movies, called Madhouse Films. The movies it has produced include, but are not limited to, Atlantic Rim, Super Warship, The Hobbit Era, Avatar vs. Alien, etc. Just by looking at the name, it highlights a copycat authenticity. And the cost of the Madhouse movie is generally controlled within $1 million US. You read that right. Not even 5 million, only 1 million. Whether it is special effects or costumes, it gives people a feeling of stall head-on. But the strange thing is that every movie in the Madhouse is profitable, and it has also launched a well-known bad movie series, Sharknado, which has made a name for itself in the global bad movie industry. Even later, there were more bad movies, and a fixed fan group has been formed. We know you're terrible, but we just want to see how rotten you've gotten this time, and we're going to buy a genuine disc collection. This phenomenon of ugliness is quite similar to the release of Fuchin Mountain Residence in Huaxia that year, and a large number of audiences walked into the cinema with the psychology of judging ugliness, contributing a wave of box office. As for whether such a rampant copycat will be litigated, the answer is no. Asylum Film and Television has embarked on the road of copycats since 2005, and by 2023, there have been more than 300 copycat Hollywood blockbusters, and all the big Hollywood companies have not escaped the clutches of the Madhouse, but they have only been sued twice. The original company is too lazy to go through the legal process, because the time is protracted, and it is basically impossible to win the lawsuit. Madhouse was once known for The Hobbit Age. I was sued by Warner, but the insane Asylum Film and Television said that I, The Hobbit, am a primitive race in Indonesia, and I have also come up with various scientific reports, which is not the same thing as your fictional Hobbit at all. Because of this, coupled with the fact that the bad movies in the Madhouse basically do not go to theaters, almost all of them are TV stations and DVDs, and everyone's positioning group is different, and there is no competition. And not only is there a point of competition, after the Madhouse pictures became famous, the copycat blockbuster can help the genuine version play a role in publicity, a win-win ending, why not? In Eric's conception, AK Films and Madhouse are similar and different. The similarities are, of course, all kinds of big bad movies. The difference is that AK will also shoot some low-budget B-grade films, which may not be bad enough, but the cost must not be high. Another important point is that Eric is really in need of money, and now he still owes the bank $2 billion, and the annual interest is astronomical for the average person. So he needs to make money, desperate to make money, but the film and television industry is a slow business, and after delisting, He can't cut leaks from shareholders. The only thing he can rely on is himself. So money, money, money. Say something important 3 times. Eric has to go crazy for money. Even he has turned his attention to the stock market, although he doesn't know much about this industry, but there are a few companies that will definitely not lose money. Besides, AK Film and Television is its own white glove, so you can start with copycat MGM movies. And now it's only 2002, and Madhouse Pictures hasn't embarked on this road yet, so I'm sorry, I'm going to occupy the track in advance. On Monday, 2 stretch Lincolns docked outside the MGM Tower, and the Coopers led a group of people into the 70-year-old film and television empire, which they are the owners of today. The front desk saw them and quickly trotted over and pressed the elevator. The company has spread all over the world, and now who doesn't know that MGM is going to have a big purge and everyone's eyes are on it? The usual faction of executives who don't deal with Shaylee Cooper will definitely be eliminated, and even one of them has resigned voluntarily 2 weeks ago. The position is vacant, and many people are gearing up to get on the top. On the board of directors, Charlie Cooper sat at the head of the long table. A group of old friends he had found sat on the right-hand side, and Eric and several people sat on the left-hand side, and at this moment the conference room gathered the entire middle and high-level MGM executives. Eric was watching them, and these people were also guessing about the role that Eric and the others were going to play. Everyone arrived, looked around, and Charlie Cooper spoke first. Now that we're all here, let's start the meeting. It's the first MGM conference, and it's going to be a new beginning for all of us. We've been working together for so long. You already know me well. I don't like to talk nonsense. It's a waste of life, a waste of money. There is only one thing I want to talk about, and that is MGM's reform, and only through reform can MGM usher in a new life. We must break the big studio model, embrace the new era, embrace the new market, and not completely run to death under the leadership of a group of self-righteous old people. After saying that, Charlie Cooper's eyes looked at the executives who usually fought against him and read out more than a dozen names in one breath, covering almost all departments. Miller Silva, Sarah Dunn, Gosling Ferrer, Chandler Lauren, you are fired. Before the words fell, it was like a thunderbolt on a sunny day, and everyone whose name was read felt their heads explode. Although everyone knew that someone would get out of MGM today, it was shocking that all the executives of all departments except finance and HR were fired. A somewhat bald man stood up suddenly. His eyes were about to burst into flames. Charlie Cooper, you shouldn't do this. This kind of practice will make you kill yourself. Another old woman with wrinkles on her face also stood up. Charlie, we have been colleagues for many years. Don't you miss the old love at all? And if you fire us all, MGM will be completely paralyzed, and you won't be able to do anything. Under the leadership of the two, many people began to complain, talking about their contributions to MGM, and if they left them, the company would die. Enough. Eric slammed the table and yelled at the group. Shut up. Sudden yelling made the group stunned for a moment, and they looked directly at Eric, and then felt shame. Their group of executives, this group of people who have been in high positions for many years, were actually pointed at their noses by a hairy boy and yelled, and it will definitely make people laugh out of their big teeth when it is spread. A fat man looked at Eric gloomily. Young man, who are you? Do you know who you're talking to? Eric slowly got up. Of course, I know very well what kind of people you are, a group of waste who can stay in the company by relying on Calcorian's nepotism. You have no ability, you don't have the vision for film selection, the level of production, the level of publicity, and the sense of smell in the market. If you want to select the worst people in Hollywood, you will all be on the list. Stuck to the ridiculously big studio model thinking. Do you know it's the 21st century? It's not the fucking 50s of the 19th century in you. I only see decay. And I'm the vice president of New MGM. You can call me Eric Cooper, remember the name. Now, get out of MGM. Get out of this building. From today onwards, parasites and waste are no longer welcome here. Everyone who doesn't work well, get out of here." Intimidated by Eric's powerful voice, a group of people knew that MGM would definitely not be able to stay any longer. So instead of spraying with Eric, a hairy boy, and being ridiculed by the entire industry, it is better to leave now to save face. "Shaylee Cooper, you're going to regret your decision today." Putting down a cruel word, a group of people walked out of the conference room one after another. Seeing the dismissal of so many executives at one time, everyone at MGM was in danger, and Eric's lion-like fierce performance quickly spread throughout the company, and everyone knew that the new vice president could not be provoked, and this effect was also something Eric was happy to see. After getting rid of this group of garbage, the rest of the field is his own people. The meeting continues, and Charlie Cooper takes the opportunity to ask his son to talk about the company's development strategy. The reason why he didn't come by himself was naturally to let his son integrate into MGM as soon as possible, and he wanted to tell everyone that Eric was not a second generation who came to play around, but the real core of the company. Looking around, the expression on Eric's face turned kind. As I said earlier, the root cause of MGM's failure to develop is the big studio model. I know that in the last century, when MGM was facing a crisis, the company put all of its resources into the production of Ben-Hur. And Ben-Hur did not disappoint MGM, bringing us a lot of honor and wealth, but after all, it is a product of the last era, and the market no longer eats this set. If we put a lot of resources into a few big productions, it will hit us hard if they fail, and we have to pack our eggs in separate baskets, which is a truth that fools understand. So we have to reform the MGM system. We have to develop in many ways. From today onwards, the marketing department should not only focus on big investment and big productions. We will not only make war films, fantasy films, but also horror films and B-grade films, and after the meeting, all the scripts in your hands will be sent to the conference room, and I will review them one by one. In addition, our special effects department, as far as I know, there are only more than 50 people now. The equipment is aging, we need new blood. Special effects blockbusters are the trend of the future. We can't lag behind. There is also the props group. Once our props were the top in the industry, although special effects can replace props to a certain extent, but they cannot be wasted, and the texture of some scenes is not comparable to special effects. And then there are the artists. I grew up watching Cat and Mouse as a child, and we are still not weak in this aspect, but we need to train new people and prevent talent from being cut off. Also, the meeting lasted more than an hour, and Eric's speech was not complicated, but it encapsulated almost all the ills of MGM, and he wanted to revolutionize MGM and put the movie giant back on the top of Hollywood. Why don't I have new books in the library? Please don't keep books. It's too important to follow up, and if you don't have it, you're dead. MGM building. At this time, there are a lot fewer people in the conference room. A moment later, someone walked in with a large stack of scripts. "Boss, this is the movie that is being made and is intended to be produced next year." Eric picked up a copy and flipped it up and saw what the name was. The Groom Goes to the Wrong Bed, an urban light comedy. I had never heard of it. It must have been a loss of money, and then threw it away. Pick up the second book. The name of the movie is Alien Dog. The main youth market. I haven't heard much of it, and there is a high probability that it will also lose money and lose it. The third is the movie Time Hunt, starring Denzel Washington. The contracts are all signed, and it is about to start. Eric has some impressions of this movie, but it is not a good impression because the movie is not a blockbuster. On the contrary, Denzel Washington's big-name operation was complained about by the entire crew, so it was on the entertainment news, and the filming did not go well, but the result could be better. Sighed, casually threw the script aside, and looked through several books in a row, and finally saw Legally Blonde 2. Although the investment in Legally Blonde 2 has doubled, and the estimated cost is as high as $26 million US. The impression is that the box office is over 100 million, plus the income from the disc market, TV stations, and other aspects. Making money is certain and belongs to high-quality resources. But that's all. In addition to it and a co-cast 007 movie in dozens of scripts, almost all of them are rubbish. It's a big MGM, and the movie sense and market sense are simply terrible. Seeing Eric's uncertain face, several middle-level people knew that it was going to be bad, and they didn't dare to speak if they stayed where they were. Sighing, Eric threw back the script of Legally Blonde 2. This one continues to be produced, but pay attention to reducing the cost. $26 million US is a bit high. Try to compress it to less than 22 million, and the rest will be scrapped. The conference room suddenly fell into suffocation, and even his father, Charlie Cooper, looked confused. Eric, isn't your decision too arbitrary? Some of these movies have already started, some contracts have been signed, and we will lose tens of millions of dollars. Eric smiled. Dad, believe in my vision. Those are just a bunch of garbage. It is better for a strong man to break his wrist than to continue to invest and lose, even worse. Now what we need is victory. What we need is a big movie, believe me. Seeing her son's determined eyes, Charlie Cooper was silent for a moment, recalling the agreement between the two. New MGM himself was at the helm and was the captain of the big ship, but Eric had absolute power in the choice of film and television production until the first production he led failed to do so. Everything is done according to Eric Cooper's intentions, whether the film is turned on or not, whether the contract is signed or not. These scripts are all put on hold for the time being. Although Charlie Cooper's heart was dripping blood, he still gave the order in an unquestionable tone. 10 million can win the bet, and this time it will definitely be okay. Moreover, the son has just joined the company, and in order to establish his authority, he must support him to the end. Other people, you look at me, I look at you. It's not good to say anything. Anyway, it's your company. You can toss as much as you like. Just pay Lao Tzu's salary on time. Judy asked. Then the only movies that the company is waiting to release this year are Red Dragon and The Barbershop, and next year's planned is only Legally Blonde 2. Do we need to add new plans? Of course it does, and I've made it clear that this year and next, MGM's major project will be Transformers. As for what the first movie would be, Eric thought for a long time and originally thought that it would be good to travel back to 2002, but when he carefully recalled those blockbuster movies, he suddenly felt that he had lost money, and it would have been perfect if he could have advanced it a few years earlier. For example, the Pirates of the Caribbean series, 5 movies have a box office of $4.5 billion, with an average of $900 million each, but unfortunately the first one will be released next year. Disney has been making it for more than a year, and it is impossible to cut off the beard now. For the Harry Potter series, J.K. Rowling has long sold the rights to Warner, and the first part of the movie was released in 2001. The Fast and Furious series can be said to be the only racing movie on the market that can be eaten, with a box office of billions, but unfortunately the first one was also released in 2001. Jurassic series, the masterpiece of the last century. The Star Wars series, the same masterpiece of the last century. The Lord of the Rings series, like Furious, was released in 2001, and Tolkien's rights have long been sold. In short, almost all the blockbuster series that can be thought of are the first ones released a year or two ago. Now you know why The Crossing is like at the turn of the millennium. And after some thought, Eric took aim at one of the few missing people, Transformers. Although the last few parts of Transformers did pull the crotch, it is undeniable that it has the ability to attract money, with an average box office of more than $800 million per piece. And the film and television copyright has not been bought by Paramount, and now I go to communicate with Hasbro, and am's very sure to get the copyright. As for the biggest difficulty in filming Transformers, it must be the special effects technology. In this regard, MGM's special effects department has no play, and must find professional teams such as Industrial Light and Magic or Weta Digital. The original Transformers was produced in 2005, and when filming started on my side, it was estimated that it would be 2003, a difference of 2 years, and the special effects technology could fully meet the standard. In fact, if you want to say the most profitable movie project, the pinnacle should be the Marvel series. Although 20th Century Fox has already made the X-Men series, and Sony has just released the first Spider-Man, it was actually 2008's Iron Man that really opened the era of superhero movies. From Iron Man to Avengers 4, superhero blockbusters have swept the world in 11 years, greatly suppressing the living space of other types of movies. But after 11 consecutive years of glory, although Avengers 4 is dazzling, it is more like the afterglow of the sunset, followed by a cold winter night, and the collapse of superhero movies. There are many reasons for the failure of superhero movies, such as the epidemic, political correctness, and the riots of DC and Marvel executives. But in Eric's view, these are not the root causes. The root cause is actually aesthetic fatigue, especially Marvel's popcorn model, which has remained unchanged for 11 years, and audiences around the world are tired of it, and the viewing potential has been exhausted. This situation can only be recovered by time, and it is necessary to wait until a new batch of moviegoers grow up, and superhero movies may usher in a recovery, and any other methods will not work. Even if 1 or 2 big hits appear later, it is only a single phenomenon. However, although the glory time is not long, but the money is a lot, it is just a big deal to transform in the later stage, and this piece of fat Eric will definitely have to be said in advance. DC has been acquired by Disney as early as the last century, but Marvel is still independent. But the situation is very miserable, so miserable that it has to sell its children to survive. Spider-Man and his side friends and Ghost Rider were sold to Sony. The X-Men series was sold to 20th Century Fox. The Hulk was sold to Universal, and Black Widow was sold to Lionsgate. Even Iron Man was sold to Universal, who later decided it was a no-brainer and sold it to 20th Century Fox. 20th Century Fox also felt that this second-tier hero was not easy to shoot and sold it to the New Line. The New Line has been in his hands for a few years, and he also didn't think about how to make a movie for this iron bump, and finally sold it back to Marvel. Marvel made a desperate bet, mortgaged all his net worth to the bank, and finally shot Iron Man, leaving him to die and come back to life. In short, with Marvel's current miserable situation, it is definitely a good time to acquire. However, having just one MGM and immediately making new acquisitions, Eric worries that even his father will not be able to support him. Others don't have the foresight, and the current Marvel is a mess and worthless. When he made his achievements, it was the time to buy Marvel, and Eric set the time for next year in his heart. Mr. Volvo, you contact Hasbro first, and it's better to secretly take the copyright before releasing it. I don't want to make a fuss. Volvo was recruited by his father and had worked for a small film company for 20 years. Don't worry, I'll contact Hasbro as soon as possible. Eric snorted. In addition, I also plan to start filming a TV series, The Zombie Theme, which is the story of the sudden global infection. Only a few survivors left, struggling to survive in the apocalypse. The TV series that Eric said is naturally The Walking Dead. Compared to movies, TV series are also a piece of fat that cannot be let go, as well as variety shows. However, the choice of TV dramas is more complicated because income is greatly affected by ratings, and the statistics of ratings in the United States are completely different from those in Huaxia, and not all TV dramas are compared together, because just like movies, American dramas are also graded, divided into public and cable stations. In 2002, CBS, ABC, Fox, NBC, WB, UPN, and PBS were the most widely covered public stations. Among them, PBS is more special. The content is mainly education and children, for example, Sesame Street is their family, and it has nothing to do with American dramas or anything. As for the CW that is often mentioned in China, it was formed by the merger of WB and UPN in 2006, and it has not yet been established. Public stations are strictly controlled, nude footage and vulgar language are generally not visible, and even some sensitive words are harmonized, which is equivalent to PG-13 in movies, such as Eric's favorite Friends is NBC. And the cable station is a paid channel, and the scale is naturally relatively large after all. Lao Tzu has paid the bill. Do you still show me SpongeBob SquarePants? Well-known representatives of cable stations include FX, AMC, CNN, HBO, Showtime, etc., which is divided into basic channels and advanced channels. The basic channel will also give due consideration to teenagers and will also moderately add some advertising elements. The premium channel is basically ad-free, and the scale is even higher. For example, AMC in the basic channel, the representative works include Mad Men, Breaking Bad, Coquettish Lawyer, The Walking Dead, etc., among which the premiere episode of the 5th season of The Walking Dead has set a ratings record for drama TV dramas on basic cable stations. HBO in the premium channel, the representative works include Game of Thrones, The Sopranos, True Blood, Band of Brothers, Sex and the City, etc. All of them are representatives who can play, and HBO even shot a commercial for himself with the slogan, "This is not a film, this is HBO." And even on the cable station with fierce competition and frequent excellent works, although The Walking Dead is not the highest rated and not the highest comprehensive rating, it is indeed the most profitable, and it has a good reputation. So Eric naturally has to win such a good drama first. It's not too late to wait until you make money to develop high-scoring dramas such as Breaking Bad, because although Poison is the ceiling of American drama ratings, the ratings of the first 3 seasons and even the first half of the first 4 seasons are not high, and they are almost cut. The main reason is that after the plot ushered in the climax, many viewers who had not watched the previous plot spent money on the previous seasons on demand, which brought ratings, but the cost performance of Breaking Bad is far less than that of The Walking Dead. Billy, you work with the marketing and legal departments to conduct an investigation first, especially in the field of comics. I don't want to go to a copyright lawsuit later. Give me an answer in 3 days.
Billy
Understood that this was the first test for himself, and immediately solemnly said that it was no problem. Eric looked at the creative department again. George Martin, do you know this person? A mid-level officer hurriedly replied, I know him. He is a writer and screenwriter, but his screenwriting skills are not very good. He has worked in Hollywood for several years, and he has not created a well-known work, but his novels have a good reputation. Yes, I'm just asking for the rights to his novel. A Song of Ice and Fire is a great work, and we're going to get it sooner than any other company. In addition, keep an eye on horror film scripts on the market, collect them and send them to my office. And that's all for the time being. Seeing that Eric finished speaking, everyone couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The company has not stabilized yet, and the steps are too big, and it is easy to pull eggs. Then Charlie Cooper arranged some more things, and everyone walked out of the conference room one after another. Judy, wait a minute. Hearing Eric's voice behind her, Judy couldn't help but turn around and retract the leg that stepped out of the door. What's the matter, old board? With no one else, Judy suddenly became unserious, pulling a long note with a strange tone. Don't make a fuss. Ask you something. I remember you're Jewish. Yes, what's wrong? Do you hate Jews? But it's too late to say that. Eric thought to himself, I wouldn't dare to say it even if I really hated Jews. Look at Mel Gibson. Are there fewer celebrities who have been banned for saying the wrong thing? It's good to be a Jew. I have something to ask you to do. A smile suddenly appeared on Judy's face. Warren and the Guy's brothers were both assigned to work, and only I was left to hang. It turned out that you had a secret errand. Ahem, What a secret errand. It's all for work. Let's take a look at this first. Eric took out a magazine, flipped through one of the pages, pointed to a smiling girl on it and asked, "How is she?" Judy's eyes lit up. She pulled through the magazine, looked at it carefully, licked the corners of her mouth and said, "What a young and beautiful beauty. No, when did you start paying attention to the fashion?" "I happened to see this girl recently. Her name is Gal Gadot, an Israeli Jew. I think she is very good. She has the potential for the big screen." Judy smiled. There are many models who want to enter the film and television industry, but few are really successful. I admit that this girl is very beautiful, but how do you know that she has potential? Just look at the face? Yes, it's just looking at the face. Judy was speechless, and after a moment asked, "Okay, what do you need me to do?" "Don't say it's so ugly. It's all for work. Ask about Gal Gadot's address and contact information, and test whether she is willing to develop in Hollywood. I will give you some permission. You can promise some things appropriately." Judy shrugged. "No problem. I'm very good at dealing with women, especially beautiful women. To confirm, you're really not interested in her?" "Really? Then I'm more interested." Tuesday morning, my mother brought breakfast, milk bread and bacon omelette, which is not as exaggerated as the rich man in the movie, and the Cooper's food is ordinary. The key is health. Eric drank milk while flipping through the latest issue of the newspaper, and now that his identity is different, it is still necessary to read the newspaper, especially the entertainment newspaper. Moreover, now that network information is not developed enough, let alone mobile phones, paper media is still the mainstream. Flipping through the Los Angeles Times, the front page headline was a photo of Eric and them walking into the MGM building, and he couldn't help but smile. As I watched on, Eric's office was filled with a large portion of MGM's former leadership, and at the end it was accompanied by a picture of the high-rise leaders leaving the building in disgrace. Eric glanced at the other side. "Dad, what did you do?" Charlie Cooper nodded. "Eric, Hollywood is a vanity fair. Except for politics, you can't find a more realistic place than here. I need to establish your reputation and majesty. Just use these old guys as stepping stones. This is the best way." Two laughed at the same time, not to mention that there is an old man in the family. This kind of palace struggle Eric is not good at, but his father has already silently paved the way for him. "By the way, Dad, I have something to discuss with you." "What's the matter?" "I signed up for a film and television company not long ago, but it's still an empty shell, and I want to run it." "What are you doing with the registration of a company? After so much effort to acquire MGM, can't you shoot it in MGM Studio?" Yes, but I'm worried that it won't have a good impact on MGM's reputation." Charlie Cooper frowned. "You don't want to make a movie like the San Fernando Valley." Eric smiled awkwardly. "Dad, do you think I'm that kind of person? I'm going to make a bad movie, and I'm going to make a bad movie company." After laying out his plan, Charlie Cooper nodded. "It's okay to think, and I haven't heard of anyone doing this. Maybe there will be a future, but will anyone really like to watch bad movies? I know that there is a part of the audience who likes to hunt for curiosities, but it is only a small part, and they can't support a company." Eric understood his father's worries. "That's why I said that I don't go to theaters. The shooting cycle is very short, and I won't grab MGM's resources." "Well, I'll arrange for some skilled employees to come over, but it's voluntary, and now MGM is not stable, and I don't want the union to make trouble." Principle of voluntariness. The salary is increased by 2%. Some people come over. The key is to have experience, to be skilled, and the pursuit of bad movies is speed. Under the coordination of my father, things went smoothly, and in just 2 days, hundreds of people enthusiastically signed up. They are all grassroots workers, and it is impossible to get promoted in this life, and it is the same in any company, and the salary of AK film and television is still high. However, AK Films' model is destined not to require so many people, and a team of dozens of people was selected, and Charlie Cooper even selected an executive from MGM's finance department to recommend him. In my father's words, the financial importance of this kind of bad film company is much higher than that of other departments, and you must choose your own people who are capable and trustworthy. Both companies are based in Los Angeles, and all new hires have to do is pack up their things, leave MGM, and join AK in 3 steps, which is surprisingly fast. In just 3 days, Eric, Warren, and Pema were already standing in the office building marked with AK Films, watching the employees below hold a meeting. Pema is the financial executive that his father chose for him. At the age of 34, he entered the film and television industry halfway, and it only took 6 years to become an executive and core member of MGM's financial department. She is very ambitious, she is still unmarried, and she is a capable, mature woman, and she will hold the position of general manager of AK Film and Television. Of course, Pema chose to come to AK Film and Television without ambitions. After all, there are department heads above MGM himself, and it is not easy to climb up, but now he only needs to be responsible for Eric alone and would rather be a chicken head than a phoenix tail. Eric cleared his throat. You are all old employees of MGM, and you know who I am, so I won't say anything superfluous. I hope we will have a good time working together in the future, and together we will make AK Films another benchmark in Hollywood. Then Pema also said a few words. She was too familiar with these employees, and she was also a capable person, and her speech was short and powerful. Finally, there is Warren. Eric arranged the position of vice president for him. This kid is obviously prepared, and he said a lot of things. Plus, he was wearing a suit and leather shoes, and those who didn't know thought he was the boss. After the meeting, Warren and Pema were called to the office and thrown them an outline of a script with Sharknado written on it. You know the company's positioning. This is the first movie I tailor-made for the company. We want to be an instant hit. We must make a name for ourselves in the market. The two hurriedly picked up the script and looked at it carefully. It was just an outline, less than 10 sheets of paper. After watching it quickly, Pema nodded. Although I am not proficient in the market, the shark theme is still relatively popular, the market prospect is okay, and the shark tornado, the theme is really novel. I have never seen it. There is a feeling of spoofing a B-grade disaster movie. Warren loosened his tie and sighed that he had to lose weight, and just from the outline, you can see a very unique atmosphere. How to say that is. It's so rotten that it can take its place, even in the midst of a forest of bad movies, right? Warren slapped his thigh. Yes, in my experience of watching countless discs, this is the feeling. Rotten is very distinctive. Eric laughed. This is the way we are going, Warren. You go and contact the screenwriter. We don't want big names. Small screenwriters can. What is in pursuit is spoof and speed. When the time comes, tell the screenwriter to let him write with his brains open. Don't care whether the logic is smooth or not, let alone have any intersection with the laws of reality. Write whatever is in the dream. I just need a story that is reasonable. Warren showed a look of understanding. This kind of script is too simple. It can be done in half a month at most. Eric looked at Pema again. Ms. Pema, you have to put a little more thought into it recently. The pressure of the whole company will fall on your shoulders, although we are a small company, but the structure must at least be perfect. After all, it will develop more and more in the future. You are in charge of recruiting the heads of several other departments, and you have to set up the team as quickly as possible and finally give me a list. Pema suddenly felt a burst of ecstasy in his heart and hurriedly said, Don't worry, I won't let you down. Of course, I believe in your abilities and in my father's vision. After sending Pema out of the office, Eric said, Warren, my main focus must be on MGM's side. AK is led by you and Pema. First, follow her to learn from the experience, learn to manage a company as soon as possible, and of course, keep an eye on her for me. Warren is a shrewd fat man, so he naturally understands what Eric means. Don't worry, as long as I'm here, she won't mess around. I am a little painter who sells newspapers, and I hope that today is another day of fishing.